Hey, thanks for checking out The Solid Verbal. Now would be a great time to subscribe to the channel for college football content all off season long. I think we go with USC here, just because we've mentioned them already so many times, and you have the returning Heisman winner and the final season for USC out west in the Pac-12. So I ask you, on a team stacked with fascinating storylines, which was the item that rose to the top for you?
Yeah, I mean, USC, the item that rises to the top for me is Caleb Williams against his own defense, which is really going to be the storyline. It's going to be the storyline. It's the point of fascination with USC that I think we need to talk about if we're being honest here. Well, the other aspect, I'm not going to hit the ding for this, that I find interesting about USC, and it's always interesting when any team kind of gets to this level, but we always joke about the USC hype train, and Texas has a hype train, and Notre Dame and Michigan and Ohio. Everybody's got their own hype train. But the USC hype train in particular is one that we've had a lot of fun with. It used to be like the Polar Express, where only the true believers could actually see it. This year, it's actually a thing.
Sure.
For those of us on Earth One over here kind of trying to live in reality, it's actually a thing because of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams needs no introduction, won the Heisman, 52 total touchdowns, 4,500 passing yards, presumably the top pick in the 2024 NFL draft. He's going to have pinball numbers in year 3 under the Lincoln Riley system. We already know this. Yep. The supporting cast around him is also comically loaded, but to an extent, and Bill Connolly mentioned this, his words, not mine, to an extent, the supporting cast kind of doesn't even matter because it's Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
It's a Caleb Williams show. It's whatever he does, that's what USC does. The sub point here that I'm very curious in, just as a bit of an aside, is the offensive line losing a couple All-Americans. USC had trouble protecting Caleb Williams last season. And though it could be highly entertaining if he's constantly on the run, because we know he thrives in that type of setting, it also seems like that could be detrimental, not just to his health, but the overall project afoot here at USC, if they're not able to keep him upright and protected so that he can make plays more comfortably. But all that being said, we know what he's going to do, generally speaking. And why I am so interested in that contrast is because the schedule is difficult in its own right. When we talked about the schedule a few months back, we highlighted a tough stretch of games, the Fettuccine Alfredo in October and November for USC. The secondary concern, I would say, for me is, this defense is much in the same way, similar to what we would used to talk about with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. And it was, if they can get marginally better, how much better will the team be? Just marginally better.
Yeah.
They don't need to be the 85 Bears out there, Dan. They just need to be a little bit better than they've been. Will they be better?
Yes.
I don't know. I think they will.
Come on. None of this I don't know stuff. Come on. Plant some flags.
I think they will be better.
Okay.
I think they will be better. But I think the contrast, because Caleb Williams is so good, will never be on better display. And last season, we didn't really know what we were signing up for with Lincoln Riley and USC and all these transfers. There was an unprecedented amount of roster turnover there, too.
Right.
And I think it turned out pretty well. The defense, still a problem. But this season now, knowing what we've got to work with, what Lincoln Riley tried to do was boost the defense with transfers. They were very aggressive in the portal. They had something like 7 transfers come in from Power 5 rosters to try and plug the gaps and beef up the defensive line. Anthony Lucas, a big name, comes over from Texas A&M. Bear Alexander was a really big get for the Trojans in the transfer portal, comes over from Georgia pretty late in the cycle. A lot of hushed, revered tones about Bear Alexander. Could he be the behemoth that USC needs in the middle to eat up space and to go to the next level with this thing? And the Bear helps, but I can assure you that it'd help a lot more if this unit weren't 123rd in tackle success rate last season. To me, the real fascination is not just that contrast, but also, is this a coaching problem or is this a talent problem? I think we've gotten to the point now with USC on defense where we can root out talent. Like, if they don't tackle this year, it's probably a coaching thing. Either the guys
I think it can be both. I think it can be both.
Stink,
yeah,
and everybody missed on them in the recruiting rankings and otherwise, or it's a scheme or a coaching thing where they're not teaching fundamentals, not putting them in a position to succeed. That contrast to me between the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and the defense that just needs to be a little bit better, which is really the broken record story for Lincoln Riley everywhere he's been. Just marginally better makes USC potentially a playoff contender. I'm not sure I truly buy that, but that's where we're at.
We're both guilty of it, where like a team is catastrophically bad at something and you're like, just be okay. Like, well, it might be very hard for them to be okay. They might not have the guys to be okay. USC, as you mentioned, look, I think Mason Cobb is another valuable addition in the linebacking core from Oklahoma State. I think they're going to have more good guys on defense. I think the issue is, well, I think it's still going to be depth in that front seven. They haven't recruited like they want to field a terrific, both in the portal and in high school. They haven't recruited like they want a top 40 defense. And employing Alex Grinch is to employ a defensive coordinator who, at his best, builds a defense around speed and shifts and confusing quarterbacks and forcing turnovers. Admirable things. They're great. But if you're not recovering fumbles, if every fumble isn't bouncing your way, like it did for like 10 of the 12 weeks last year, and you are not intercepting quarterbacks at will to change the complexion of the game. Again, it's great. It's a positive thing. Don't get me wrong. If you are able to field a defense that confuses and turns over quarterbacks all the time, you're doing something right. They finished first on offense in avoiding 3-and-outs nationally. They were the #1 offense at avoiding 3-and-outs. On defense, in terms of an ability to get off the field and force 3-and-outs, they were 120th in the nation. And so you are spot on that there is that difference of, is this a defense capable of doing the medium things to succeed, right? To falling into the correct zone on a passing down, to getting after the quarterback, picking the correct times to blitz. And look, let's oversimplify. Defense is about your guy beating their guy. USC does not have enough guys capable of consistently winning our guy versus your guy battles. And so here we are.
Yeah, it was one of the things that I remember in the build-up to last season when we talked to people who were more familiar with the USC roster. It was one of the points that came up. There's skill talent. Obviously, Caleb Williams is all-world everything, won the Heisman. But defensively, who's that guy? Who's the guy in the middle of that line who's going to eat up space?
So maybe Barry Alexander. Yeah,
maybe it's Barry Alexander this year. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they didn't have that physicality on defense, and that's part of why, like Utah, for example.
Yeah.
Utah would give USC trouble.